In order to experience the high society life, I immediately accepted the system's invitation and became a rich second generation. However, the system turned out to be a sneaky one. It assigned me the role of an utterly shameless simp. Not only did I have to fawn over the maid's daughter, Willow, but I also had to spend all my money on her. Even have to treat the nanny like your real mother and serve her every day, cooking and taking care of her. The result? Not only did Willow fail to appreciate any of it, but she also used the original protagonist's money to support her lover. In the end, she even caused the death of the male lead's entire family. Seeing this, I was absolutely furious. I read the criminal code over and over again, memorizing every section. This scared the system so much that it appeared next to me. It threatened, if you don't follow the plot and complete your task, don't even think about going back to your original life. I smirked and asked, why the hell would I want to go back? Isn't it better to be a lawless outlaw? Get lost. Chapter 1. While scrolling through videos, I came across one that read, send 3 dog emojis to experience the high society life, with the mindset of, if there's a bargain, grab it. I sent 3 dog emojis. Little did I know, this was a system that transported me into another world. Though I had crossed over into a wealthy family, I was unfortunately the second male lead in a rich family drama. As everyone knows, the second male lead in a rich family drama is the ultimate simp, endlessly tortured by the male and female leads. Bankruptcy is the lightest of outcomes, and he might even die at the hands of their scheming. Just thinking about this gave me chills. I wailed at the system. I don't want to be a rich second generation anymore. Send me back. The system, however, gave me a smug smile and replied, no can do. I've finally found a fool to do the hard work for me. You must follow the plot. After that, the system vanished. I was furious, but helpless. Then, a thought struck me, and I suddenly felt at ease. To hell with it. I'm a rich second generation now, with money and status. If the system is heartless, don't blame me for being ruthless. If I can make the plot play out, I might as well not even be called Wong. I began to read through the original storyline in detail. The more I read, the angrier I became. The original protagonist had been Willow's simp for 10 whole years. Willow was originally the daughter of the family maid, but she used the original protagonist's wealth and status to create a false persona of being a rich family heiress. As a result, everyone said, the original protagonist is just Willow's dog. Doesn't even bother to look at himself in the mirror. A toad trying to eat a swan's meat. How could a young lady like her ever think of him? To this, I could only laugh bitterly. In order to maintain Willow's persona, the original protagonist even had his beloved Pagani Huayra wrapped in a pink car cover. Willow wouldn't even let him drive the car. The 2 massive wardrobes in the mansion were filled with luxury designer clothes that the original protagonist had bought for Willow. Once, Willow smashed the original protagonist's action figure display case because he didn't manage to get her a limited edition gown. Not only did the original protagonist not get angry, but he even knelt down to apologize under Willow's pressure. Willow was the embodiment of once someone succeeds, everyone around them rises with them. Her mother also began to act as if she were the head of the household. Since the original protagonist's parents were often abroad, Lou, Willow's mother, would always educate him as if she were his real mother. She would often tell him, raise sons poorly, raise daughters well, give all your money to Willow, so she won't be swayed by the outside world. You love Willow so much, you wouldn't want her to be deceived by others because of money, would you? This was pure scheming, but the original protagonist, the fool that he was, endured it. He was even forced by Willow's mother to call her mom. Out in public, Willow directly declared that the original protagonist was the son of their maid. His identity was flipped upside down. Everyone at school mocked him, saying, a maid's son, and he dares to pursue the princess. In order to make the original protagonist's identity more fitting, Willow's mother came up with another speech, saying, raising sons poorly is to make them more resilient. When you're in school, just wear the uniform. Don't compare yourself to others. Wear cheap stuff. Save money for Willow to become more beautiful. And when you two marry, you'll have face. Didn't you hear the saying? A beautiful woman is a man's greatest luxury. The original protagonist, that fool of a simp, actually believed every word. He diligently played the role of Willow's maid's son, the clueless fool. But even after 10 years of chasing her, the original protagonist could never surpass the position of Willow's unforgettable first love, Makoto. Chapter 2. I gritted my teeth and said, Willow, Makoto, we'll see about that. Looking at the script, I was now completely immersed in the plot. After all, at this moment, I was George, the rich second generation. The storyline ahead followed the usual path of most romance dramas. Makoto returns to the country to start a business, and during his rough times, Willow first offers her full support and then sacrifices herself for love. Her greatness is unparalleled. She first gives all the money I gave her to support Makoto's entrepreneurial ventures. Then, secretly, She marries me behind his back. The book describes her mindset during this stage in a rather cringeworthy way, stating that Willow's love for Makoto is selfless and without expecting anything in return because she deeply believes that Makoto's love for her is pure and untainted. If he were to find out that his beloved woman had married someone else, and that she only married me to secure his future, he would be furious and filled with guilt. So, Willow, in her noble and pure heart, chose to bear this burden alone. After the marriage, Willow didn't even let me touch her. Instead, she secretly investigated my family's entire estate and its heirs. Once she confirmed that I was the sole heir to the assets, she devised a vicious plan. She took my parents out under the guise of a diving trip, and then drowned them in the water. After inheriting the family fortune, Willow, in cahoots with Makoto's secretary, Mary, got me drunk. Then she had Mary strip naked and lie next to me. Willow filed for divorce, claiming that I had cheated during our marriage, and demanded I leave with nothing. The original protagonist, naive as ever, thought he had actually cheated and agreed to Willow's demands without hesitation. Thus, Willow returned to Makoto, playing the role of the poor, betrayed wife, and ran off with him to start a new life. To prove his love and give Willow some vengeance, Makoto fired his secretary. It was only later that Mary revealed to the original protagonist that everything had been part of Willow's plan. Like a fool, the original protagonist went to confront Willow and Makoto. In the end, security at Makoto's company beat him to death. As he lay dying, Willow took the opportunity to tell him all the plans she had used to drain him over the years. To everyone's surprise, the original protagonist didn't get angry. Instead, he asked Willow, "Did you ever love me?" Willow's response was, "I've only ever loved Makoto. You were just a dog to me. You're not even a likable dog." And so, the original protagonist died with hatred in his heart. Willow and Makoto, on the other hand, lived happily ever after. I couldn't help but exclaim, what kind of idiot author would write something like this? Fine, if the original plot is going to play out like this, I'll stop holding back. Since I've crossed into this book, this is now a lawless land. I can do whatever I want here. After all, the characters in this book are all idiots. Feeling my malicious intent, the system, which had been quiet for so long, suddenly reappeared. It said, "Host, please follow the plot and complete your tasks. Otherwise, you will never return to your original world." I laughed and said, "Hell, who said I want to go back? I'm fine being a lawless, rich second generation here, don't you think?" Before the system could say anything else, I cut it off. Get lost. The system vanished once again. I had made up my mind. In this script, I was the true protagonist. Willow, Makoto, your time is up. At that moment, I exited the storyline reading space and found myself back in the classroom. According to the script, this was the moment when the entire class would humiliate me and pressure me to cling to Willow's leg. As expected, the whole class began to insult me, just as the plot dictated. "You're the son of a maid. What right do you have to pursue Willow? If I were you, I'd pee on a mirror and take a good look at myself. A toad trying to eat swan meat." The class president even pointed to the pink Pagani Huayra outside and said, "See that? Willow's car. You couldn't afford it even if you worked for 10 lifetimes. Isn't it embarrassing to be so pathetic every day? As a man, I'm embarrassed for you." This was all part of Willow's self-directed play to maintain her good girl persona. After the class president said this, Willow walked over and said, "Everyone, let's not be so hard on him. He's very diligent in cleaning for our family. You know, everyone has their own dreams. We shouldn't laugh at him. Even though he can't afford the $20 million Pagani, if he works hard, maybe he can ride an electric bike. People need to have dreams." If I hadn't read the plot, I might have been moved to tears by Willow's words. But now, I just felt disgusted. I showed a playful smile and looked at Willow as I said, "Yeah, you should have dreams too. Work hard, or you'll end up sleeping on the streets." The situation didn't go according to Willow's plan. She was frozen in place. Willow looked confused, clearly not understanding why I dared to speak to her like that. But at that moment, I was already walking toward that Pagani Huayra. Chapter 3. Willow shouted, "What are you doing?" Seeing my actions, Willow panicked. The reason she wanted to put a pink wrap on the Pagani Huayra wasn't just because she liked the color, but because Pagani cars are all custom made. When my dad gave it to me, he had my initials engraved on the body. Every time Willow saw those initials, she would be reminded that the car wasn't hers. That's why she absolutely hated the custom design on it. The other students also began shouting at me, "What do you think you're doing? If you damage Willow's car, can you afford to pay for it? Even if your mom worked as a maid for 100 years, it wouldn't be enough to pay for that." I smiled coldly. "Willow, if you kneel down and apologize to me now, I might consider not suing you. Otherwise, I'll hire a lawyer and sue you for defamation." Willow's eyes blazed with fury. Through gritted teeth, she spat, "George, don't push me too far." The other students quickly echoed, "Yeah, why should Willow kneel down for you? You're just the son of a maid. Who do you think you are? Defamation. What did she defame you for? Willow cares so much about this car, and you're threatening her with it. If you damage it, you'll have to pay for it. I didn't waste time with them. I immediately reached for the edge of the car wrap. Willow rushed forward, trying to stop me. Slap. I struck her across the face, saying, "Get lost." Willow froze in place, tears instantly streaming down her face. She sobbed, "You dare hit me, George. You actually hit me. How could you do this to me?" But as she watched me tear the car wrap, she softened. She muttered, "Don't you like me? If you help me cover up today's incident, I'll consider being your girlfriend." I sneered. "You really think you're some kind of princess? I've got money. What kind of women can't I get? Before, I was a fool. All that money I gave you was stolen by you. Now, I'm not the same gullible dog you used to control." Willow's strength seemed to drain away. I grabbed the corner of the car wrap and yanked it with all my might. Ryup. The pink wrap was torn open, revealing the pure white car beneath. The students around us gasped in shock. "Oh my God, he actually dared to tear off the wrap. Even if it's just a wrap, that's not something just anyone can afford to replace." I looked at them with disdain, laughing. "You idiots, take a good look." With another hard pull, I tore another large piece off. In no time, the entire pink wrap was gone, revealing a sleek, white car with a Wong logo. Everyone was stunned and started asking, "What's the meaning of this letter?" I grinned and said, "My name's George Wong, remember it?" The crowd finally caught on, some confused, others beginning to piece things together. This was a massive identity reversal. I clearly wasn't the son of a maid, and as for Willow's status as a rich girl, that was still up for debate. I grabbed a large chunk of the pink wrap and slapped it onto Willow's face, scolding her, "With that pretentious look on your face, it's disgusting." "And the pink wrap? You think you're some delicate, innocent little girl." I snatched the car keys from her bag and, without another word, revved up the car and sped off from the school. Willow clenched her teeth, her resentment reaching its peak. In a desperate attempt to salvage the situation, she dialed her mother's number. Not long after, a Maybach rolled up to the school. Willow looked around, her eyes filled with grievance, her voice choked with emotion as she said, "I'll explain what happened later. I'm leaving now." She tried to maintain her elegance as she got into the Maybach, desperately holding onto the image of herself as a rich, pampered young lady. Chapter 4. At a restaurant, I raised my glass and said, "Drink up, guys. No need to act anymore. I'm a rich second gen." I had invited a few of my roommates out for a meal. In the past, Willow and her mother would take all my pocket money under various pretenses, making my roommates think I was a poor kid. Now that I was being myself again, I had to make sure to improve my relationship with them. After all, these brothers helped me out when I was down. Although it was just small things like buying food and water, I appreciated their kindness and believed in showing gratitude. When I said that, my roommates thought I was drunk and talking nonsense. The dorm leader patted me on the back, saying, "George, you've been holding it in for too long. You're just talking rubbish. Don't worry, we won't let you go hungry. From now on, if you want anything, just say it. We've got this covered." I grinned and asked them to open their Alipay apps. They raised their eyebrows but did as I asked. I transferred 200,000 yuan to each of them and said, "See, I really do have money. I used to be an idiot, and Willow took all my money." The roommates gasped in shock. "No way, you really have money." But soon, they began to doubt it. They said, "Wait a minute, isn't Willow the rich girl? How could she steal money from you? Your mom's Willow's maid, right? You didn't steal it from Willow's house, did you? You'd better return it. Even if we're short on money, we can't let you get locked up." I smiled bitterly and shook my head. "You guys really believed it? Huh? Willow's mom is actually our family's maid." My roommates were stunned, their brains completely malfunctioning. They had no idea what was going on. I sighed and said, "Let's talk about this later. Let's just drink for now." Before they could even raise their glasses, the class group chat lit up. They saw the photo of me driving the Pagani Huayra, and another round of gasps echoed through the room. "No way, the Pagani Huayra. You really tricked us good." But beneath the photo, there was a PPT. In the PPT, Willow had written a personal account. As they read it, my roommates furrowed their brows. The dorm leader slammed the table and yelled, "No way, I don't believe it. Our George isn't like that." The others nodded in agreement. "We know George. He wouldn't do something like that." I frowned and opened the PPT. It was Willow's counterattack. In it, Willow spoke in a meek tone, claiming my father and her mother were the original couple, but because of Wong family's preference for sons, her mother wasn't valued, while mine, as the mistress, took the main position. She claimed my mom mistreated both her and her mom, treating them like servants. Apparently, I took all the good things for myself, even denying her food at times. She also said I was a tyrant at home, that the Pagani Huayra originally belonged to her, and I had stolen it, demanding my name be added to the order. She claimed that she only put the pink wrap on it to cover up the painful past. And my dog-like behavior at school, that was all an act. The truth, according to her, was that I enjoyed being mistreated, and Willow had simply played along with my twisted game, with the entire school as part of it. Chapter 5. I was speechless. Seriously, can't I get a moment of peace? I rubbed my head. I had originally planned to drink with my roommate and then figure out how to deal with Willow. But Willow was surprisingly resourceful. She'd already come up with a counterattack strategy. It seems like even a pretentious coquette needs some skill. Otherwise, it's really hard to get by. As the situation escalated, my personal information was also dug up. A lot of people online were trash-talking me. The netizens said, "I told you, no rich second generation is ever a good person. This rich kid pretending to be poor is probably just trying to trick young girls. So ruthless." I didn't pay any attention to what was being said online. If Willow wanted sympathy, if she wanted to rebel, she had to maintain her image as a rich, pampered daughter. And to keep that image, she had to spend money and rely on her mom. Sure enough, when I got home, I found Lou's mother secretly driving the family's Maybach to pick up Willow. Now that I knew that, it was easy. I went straight to Lou's mother and said, "Aunt Lou, you're fired. I'll compensate you for 3 months' wages. You can leave immediately. The house will be reorganized by the new nanny. Of course, anything you took from here without permission must be returned." Willow's mother was stunned for a moment before switching to a fake smile and saying, "George, did Aunt Lou do something wrong? Whatever you need, Aunt Lou will fulfill. We've had so many years of relationship. How can you just kick me out?" I sneered and said, "I don't like nannies who don't know their place. Take your dumb daughter and get out." Willow's mother immediately exploded, shouting, "I know you like my daughter. You're using this kind of pressure to get me to marry her to you. I'm telling you, I won't sell my daughter just for a little bit of wealth. If I leave, my daughter will never talk to you again. You'd better think this through." I laughed even louder and said, "That's even better. You guys make me sick." At this point, Lou's mother could no longer stay calm. This job paid $50,000 a month, and she could freely use the house's nutrition supplements, gourmet food, luxury cars, and clothes. Without this job, she wouldn't be able to find anything decent. Lou's mother immediately called Willow. She slapped Willow across the face and angrily yelled, "Willow, what did you do to upset the young master? Apologize to him right now." Willow stared at me, her eyes red, biting her lip as she said, "Sorry," I coldly said. "Is that an apology?" Willow's mother immediately slapped Willow again. Willow burst into tears, raised her voice, and trembled as she said, "Sorry." Willow's mother quickly tried to smooth things over, saying, "George, you see, she apologized. Please forgive us." I smiled and said, "I heard the apology, but I still don't like you too. Get out of my house." Willow's mother tried to say something else, but I already had an icy expression on my face and said, "I've been polite enough. Don't make me curse." Willow's mother shuddered. As though all her strength had been drained, she took Willow and left. I immediately called the second-hand luxury store and said, "I have a bunch of clothes here. Can you come pick them up?" I turned to look at the security footage at the door. Sure enough, Willow and her mother were still standing there. Lou's mother was calling my dad. She said, "Master, I don't know what's gotten into the young master. He's being influenced by someone and wants us out of the house. He's been staying out late recently, probably hanging out with some unsavory people. We can leave. But after so many years of working together, I can't just watch the young master go down the wrong path." Chapter 6. A moment later. My dad called me to ask what had happened. I said, "Dad, I fired them." "Are you planning to lecture me?" The script doesn't describe much about the second male lead's parents. I didn't know if my dad really had some dramatic backstory like Willow claimed. But I am a rich second generation, and I'm not afraid of anything. I'm his only son, so I don't believe he's going to magically get me a younger brother. I was ready to be reckless. But my dad's words surprised me. He said, "What am I going to educate you about? That nanny was hired by you. They reported to me without permission. I told the security to kick them out immediately. If they were abroad, I would have had someone beat them up. My son is my son. If they dare disrespect me, I'll deal with it." I almost laughed. I didn't expect my dad to be this awesome. We exchanged a few more words, then he went back to his work, without my dad backing them up. Willow and her mom could only stand outside, constantly pleading. Lou's mother sobbed, Sorry, young master, we were wrong. We can't lose this job." I couldn't be bothered to deal with them, so I just ignored their wailing. Soon, the second-hand luxury store people arrived. They began collecting all of Willow's clothes. Willow's eyes nearly shot out fire. She shouted in frustration, "Put them down. These are mine." The workers ignored her completely. I asked directly, "Did you pay for these? Where's the purchase record?" "Oh wait, the purchase records you showed me were all paid with my card." Willow gritted her teeth and said, George, what do you want to do? Are you going to destroy everything just because you didn't get it? Good thing I didn't get involved with someone like you. Besides money, what do you have? I nodded and said, yeah, I only have money left. What do I need anything else for? With money, I can do whatever I want. So what? I've got money. You don't. I'll spend it however I want. I grinned and pointed at Willow's clothes, saying, these clothes will be sold too. Just give me a little money. Also, these clothes from the old nanny. She's too old and ruined the outfit. I'm giving them to you for free. Willow and her mom's eyes widened. They didn't expect me to be so vicious. They clutched their chests, trying to defend their dignity. I threw 2 pieces of street market clothing out of the wardrobe and said, Aunt Lou, these are what you said were fine for the street market. I'll give one to each of you, just to cover up. Take your clothes off right now, or I'll call the cops for theft. Willow and her mother felt utterly humiliated, but they were just our housemaids. They didn't know anyone important and had no money. They couldn't even afford to buy the clothes they were wearing. Lou's mother gritted her teeth and said, I'll take it off, but can we use a room? I can't do it here. I smirked and blocked their way as they tried to enter the room, saying, if you try to come in, I'll report you for trespassing. Quickly change, before I change my mind and take all your street market clothes back. Willow and her mother, tears in their eyes, took off their expensive clothes in the hallway. I looked at them in just their underwear and smiled. All right, stop taking it off. It's painful to watch. I'll show some mercy and let you keep that little bit of coverage. Willow couldn't hold it in any longer and burst into tears. Lou's mother, full of humiliation, picked up the clothes I had thrown on the floor and put them on Willow. Watching them leave, I finally felt a little better. Yes, I may only have money, but money is enough. I looked at these 2 poor women, wondering what they thought they could do to compete with me. I checked the time. Tonight just happened to be the time when Willow's unforgettable first love, Makoto, was returning to the country. According to the script, Willow would definitely go to pick up Makoto. For all these years, Willow had kept in touch with Makoto, while I was just her best ATM. From the script, I also knew that tonight, Willow would give everything to Makoto. She would confess her love, saying, I love only you. Even if I have to do some things with George in the future, I won't give him my first time. He only deserves to eat your leftovers. Chapter 7. I sat quietly in the back seat of the business car, watching the planes land and passengers disembark. As expected, Willow was already waiting outside. Just like in the script, when Makoto came out, Willow had already shaken off her previous gloom and was smiling brightly. Even though she was dressed simply, she still looked stunning. This must be the protagonist halo in the script, 360 degrees of beauty. No matter how you looked at her. Makoto held Willow's hand, asking her about everything with concern, but from my angle, I could clearly see Makoto's slightly furrowed brow. His eyes scanned Willow's outfit from head to toe. However, Willow's clothes weren't that problematic. She explained that she was interning at a company and couldn't afford to dress too flamboyantly. At that moment, Willow was still trying her best to maintain the persona of a rich girl. After all, now that she had been kicked out of my house, her only hope was Makoto, and Willow knew exactly what kind of person Makoto was. Makoto cared a lot about family background, and if he knew Willow wasn't actually a wealthy heiress, even if she were as beautiful as a goddess, it wouldn't matter. How ridiculous. Are all the characters in this book mentally unstable? What a melodramatic romance plot. Soon, Makoto took Willow and left the airport. I wasn't interested in watching their next moves as long as the script was progressing smoothly. That's all that mattered. After all, while I had decided to become the protagonist myself, if the main plot went off track, it would cause big problems. If Willow and Makoto turned into villains and sent someone to kill me, it would be a huge loss. I still have to enjoy my peaceful retirement here. As expected, Makoto and Willow exchanged a few words with some distance between them. They were staying at one of the hotels owned by my family. The hotel manager immediately reported to me, but I couldn't care less. Let them play however they wanted. But soon, a problem arose. Willow once again twisted the facts. She told Makoto that I was her cousin, but her father had passed away early, and the inheritance over the years had been gradually swallowed up by me, her evil cousin. She claimed I lusted after her beauty and demanded that she marry me, so I would give her the property that rightfully belonged to her. In her version of events, I was a villain. Though I hadn't touched her, I was still a disgusting pervert. She exaggerated, saying I sold her clothes and made her play the maid at home. Even watching her change clothes, if she hadn't fought back so hard, she would have been tainted, but she was forced to strip down to just her underwear. As she spoke, Willow's tears started flowing uncontrollably. Makoto, looking heartbroken, pulled Willow into his arms and swore, Willow, what's yours? I'll make sure you get it back. Willow nodded and said, Makoto, in this life, I only love you, only you. Once we get that 10 billion back, It'll be ours to share. Makoto's eyes lit up. He had come back to the country because his company had gone bankrupt overseas. And now a bunch of foreign debt collectors were after him. His company had only been worth a few million at best, but the 10 billion Willow spoke of made him go crazy. He had already mentally counted that money as his own. Through gritted teeth, he said, "George, you owe me, and you must pay it back." Willow added fuel to the fire, saying, "Yes, make him pay it all back, double." Chapter 8. Makoto shouted, "George, get out here." The next morning, Makoto knocked on my door. He stood in front of my house, glaring at me, and said, "Return the money you stole from Willow. If not, I'll destroy your family." I frowned, looking at this idiot, not knowing what to say, but I already knew what Willow had pulled. She must have told Makoto the same nonsense she said at school. I muttered, "Idiot," under my breath and slammed the door shut. Makoto kept banging on the door, shouting that I owed him money and wouldn't pay up. There weren't many people in the upscale villa area, but there were plenty of security guards. Makoto had only been yelling for a few minutes when the guards tossed him out without a second thought. Are you kidding me? Driving a Mercedes C-Class into a luxury villa area with no connections, zero presence. From the guards' perspective, no homeowner here would owe money to such a small-time punk. Even if they did, it would be because this punk didn't know his place. But Makoto wasn't going to give up that easily. Just after lunch, as I was about to head to the gym, someone knocked on my door again. A well-dressed, glasses-wearing man stood there and said, "Hello, are you Mr. George? I'm the lawyer representing Mr. Makoto and Miss Willow. I'd like to have a word with you." I frowned, looking at this rookie lawyer who probably hadn't been in the job long. This guy must have lost his mind, coming to a rich villa area to talk law. You should know that every single household here has its own legal team. A lone rookie like him coming in here, it's like sending a lamb to the slaughter. When I opened the door, he immediately started with the usual scare tactics. "Mr. George, I must inform you that we've already filed a lawsuit regarding your illegal acquisition of Miss Willow's assets. You will soon receive a court summons, and I hope you take this seriously. If you return Miss Willow's property immediately, we may consider withdrawing the case, but if you continue to refuse, it won't be so simple when it's in court." I looked at him and said, "Are you an idiot?" The lawyer froze, unsure how to respond. In his experience, anyone from a regular family would be intimidated by talk of court and summonses, but the situation was completely different now. Seeing me curse at him, he thought his intimidation wasn't working. He tried again, saying something even more ridiculous. "Mr. George, if you refuse to return the property, we will request the court to list you as a defaulter. Your travel and children's education will be restricted, and our company has many ways to deal with people like you. If necessary, don't blame us for using methods you can't handle." I looked at him and nearly burst out laughing. What lawyer? He's nothing more than a debt collector. I had to admire his courage, coming to pick a fight with a billionaire's heir without even knowing what he was doing. What a fool. But I nodded seriously and said, "Get Makoto here, and let's talk." The rookie lawyer arrogantly nodded and said, "All right, wait for my client to arrive. I'm telling you, if you want us to consider withdrawing the case, you better show some sincerity." I let the lawyer in and immediately went to my study. I called up the martial arts academy under my company and said, "Send a few instructors over to help me with something. You don't need to go too hard, just some black belts in Taekwondo, maybe a UFC champ." Chapter 9. Makoto said, "George, I've told you, I have plenty of ways to deal with you." Makoto walked into my villa proudly. The little lawyer sat with his legs crossed on the couch. Willow also stopped pretending and directly followed behind Makoto. From their expressions, it seemed they thought this matter was almost guaranteed to succeed. I guess Makoto had already planned how to spend the billions. The little lawyer pulled out a draft of an agreement and said, "Mr. George, just sign this agreement. You originally owed Miss Willow $3 billion. Considering the mental damages and interest, you'll be paying a total of $5 billion in compensation." I almost snickered out loud. Mental damages and interest totaling $2 billion. Even the most aggressive loan sharks wouldn't be this daring. The little lawyer added, "You'll also need to write voluntary gift on the agreement. That's the rule." He looked at me, a smirk at the corner of his eye. He, just like Makoto, had already figured out how to spend the $50 million commission. It was money they could never earn in several lifetimes. He thought this was a risky gamble, but was surprised it was going so smoothly. I calmly replied, "Hold on, there are still a few people coming. I'll sign once they arrive." The lawyer frowned and said, "Even if you hire a lawyer, it's useless. We're at this point. You should sign quickly, otherwise, my client will sue you, and your life will be over." He then changed his tone to a more sincere one. "You're still young. If you leave a criminal record, it won't be good. Trust me, it won't harm you." I rolled my eyes. "Criminal record? What? Am I trying to get a government job?" Just then, the door was knocked. A man's voice came from outside. Sir, we've brought the people you asked for. I smiled and opened the door, and in walked more than 20 strong men. The weakest of them was over 6 feet 3 inches and weighed over 200 pounds. All muscle. The lawyer, Makoto, and Willow all stared at the group, dumbfounded. I immediately spoke up. These are the people trying to extort me. The 20 or so strong men nodded in unison. Understood, sir. I added. Leave the woman. The strong men immediately grabbed Makoto and the lawyer. Their small frames were no match for the muscular giants. A few of the men took out a deathmatch contract from a boxing gym and said, "You like signing contracts, don't you? Here, sign this one. If you don't, I can't guarantee we won't just beat you up." Makoto and the lawyer signed the contract through gritted teeth. The burly men, it turned out, weren't as simple as they looked. After they signed, they told Makoto and the lawyer, "This contract is between you two and all 20 of us, though it's not a group beating. You'll have to fight each of us in a life or death match." Makoto and the lawyer passed out from fear. The burly men splashed cold water on their faces and laughed sinisterly. "Let's go, babies. You can't run now." Chapter 10. Makoto was beaten so badly her face was covered in blood, but she still cursed at me nonstop. Willow, seeing Makoto's miserable condition, couldn't help but cry. I frowned and said, "She can still talk. Why aren't you punching her in the mouth? If she talks again, you won't get your bonus this month." With that, the big men rushed to action. No joke. For trainers of their level, a month's bonus wasn't small. They needed to put in their best effort to make a living. From then on, they focused on the key part. Each man took turns slapping Makoto several times, making sure to knock at least one of her teeth out before moving on to heavy punches, beating her like a shrimp. The 20-plus big men took turns. Makoto, helpless, looked like a disabled stray dog abandoned on the street. By the end, though Makoto wasn't crippled, she had almost no teeth left. The most important part was that, to avoid making a scene, the big men even put protective gear on Makoto. She was beaten around like a ball. As for the other lawyer, he was so terrified by the scene that he almost wet himself. He looked at me, trembling, before stuttering. "Beating people is wrong." I nodded. "I never said it was right." He continued shaking. "Beating people is illegal." I nodded again. "I never said it was legal." His voice was shaking. "Being illegal means you have to pay." I nodded again. "I never said I wouldn't pay." "How much do you want?" "I can afford it. But can you handle the beating?" After the thrashing, the lawyer looked just as bruised as Makoto. I waved my hand, and two of the big men dragged them away, ready to throw them out. I looked at Makoto and said, "You can call the police. I've prepared the compensation, but I've prepared double." Looking into my eyes, Makoto swallowed hard. She knew that if she called the police, there would be no escape from a second round of beating. Chapter 11. Willow looked at me with sparkling eyes. I could see through her little schemes. She was thinking that one day, she'd get revenge for the humiliation of today. Since this pathetic simp still loved her, it would be easy to handle. She would pretend to be with me, and then seize my assets when the time was right. Probably, according to the author's pattern, she would even feel self-righteous, thinking she was sacrificing for true love, enduring humiliation for Makoto, and keeping it secret from him. This would somehow elevate the plot, making her the heroine who takes on all the burdens. If I could hear Willow's thoughts, it would be a great amusement. To show my sincerity, I handed Willow a credit card and said, "As long as you cut ties with Makoto, you can use this credit card." Willow had been suffering these past few days. In the past, she used to flaunt her power through me. She'd shop at malls without even checking prices. But now, she couldn't even afford to eat at high-end restaurants. She had been kicked out of a small diner for asking the owner to serve her like she was at a Michelin restaurant. Now, seeing that she was just one step away from returning to her old life, she couldn't resist the temptation. She nodded. "Okay, I'll be with you." She reached for the credit card, but I pinned her to the wall, face to face. Willow had a faint fragrance, and her delicate features were undeniably captivating. We were face to face, and her ears turned red. Her voice trembled as she asked, "What are you going to do?" I stared at Willow, my face drawing closer. Willow bit her lip, almost on the verge of tears. Although she had decided to make a sacrifice, at this point, she still wanted to back out. She instinctively resisted me. No need to say more. I knew this was just part of the script. I quietly watched her, until Willow's mental defenses completely broke down. When she finally gave in and removed her outerwear, I let go. Willow, like a chastised virgin heroine, fled my grasp, ashamed. Very good. I wanted the heroine to realize just how degrading her so-called sacrifices were. I had no intention of having any kind of entanglement with this woman. 1. I don't mess with dirty things. Cheating men and women deserve to be locked away. 2. The system had brief contact with me recently, and its bottom line was that the main plot couldn't collapse. Willow's ultimate fate had to be with Makoto. If the plot fell apart, we were all done for. Just 2 hours after Willow left, I received a spending record on my phone. It seemed she had been holding back too long. She practically swept through the whole mall. Looking at the 7-figure bill, I smirked and quickly dialed a number, saying, "Mr. Chen, I've heard that you can sue to recover expenses during a relationship, right?" Mr. Chen replied respectfully, "Yes, sir. What do you need me to do?" I laughed. "Nothing much. I'll send you the spending record. Just keep it for now. It might come in handy later." Just as I was about to send it, I saw a few more entries on the spending record. This time, though it was only a few $100,000, I couldn't help but smile. It was from a men's clothing store. Looks like Willow, the romance-obsessed fool, had reunited with Makoto again. This gave me the perfect solid evidence. Chapter 12. That evening, I called Willow and said, "Willow, come over tomorrow. We need to talk about the wedding arrangements." Willow stammered, "Okay. I'll come tomorrow. I won't be late." In that instant, I understood. Willow was still with Makoto. This was probably her attempt to make Makoto think she was just talking to a friend or something. I traced the shopping list to the mall where Willow had made her purchases. After casually spending a few tens of thousands, the store manager invited me to the VIP room. After a detailed conversation, I pieced together what had happened. Willow had found Makoto right after he was beaten up. To comfort him, she took him to a men's clothing store and bought him a bunch of things. The manager recalled, "Seems like that woman is from a wealthy family." When they were talking, Willow told that man not to worry, that the money would come soon. She also said she already had a plan, and that Makoto just needed to wait a few more days. I nodded. This aligned with my suspicions. Willow was continuing to play the part of the rich young lady. She was doing her best to please Makoto because she wanted to become Mrs. Ito. As for her plan, it was the same old plot, the one scripted for her. She would marry me, figure out my finances, then somehow get rid of my parents and frame me for infidelity. Eventually, I'd end up with nothing while she and Makoto enjoyed the spoils. I lit a cigarette, amused. The game was getting interesting. Even though they had the main character aura, I'd already seen the script. Sure enough, when Willow came the next day, she was ready to marry me. She said, "George, I admit I was wrong before. As long as you treat me well from now on, I'm willing to marry you. Can we have a destination wedding? I like a more free-spirited kind of wedding." I laughed. In the script, Willow and Makoto had a huge wedding. Willow had even said her biggest dream was to wear the most beautiful wedding dress in the world. Now, she wanted a destination wedding. It was clear she was just afraid that Makoto would find out if the ceremony was too grand. More importantly, she was trying to protect her image as a young mistress of a wealthy family. How could she let people know she was getting divorced? Thinking of Willow's schemes, I immediately rejected her idea. "No, my wedding has to be grand." Willow panicked. "Well, maybe, we should think about it again." I suddenly changed my expression and reached for Willow's cheek. Willow flinched, afraid that what happened yesterday might repeat itself. Though I'd held back yesterday, today I wasn't sure. She didn't want any involvement with me. I looked at her cheek and said, "Don't worry, I'll consider your feelings. Let's go with the destination wedding." I let go of her, and Willow calmed down. She even felt a little smug, thinking her plan had succeeded so easily. I tossed a key to Willow and said, "This is the key to our wedding suite. Take it." Willow took the key, excited, and left. What she didn't know was that the suite was equipped with 360-degree hidden cameras. I watched her leave and called my media company. I said, "Spread the news of our engagement. The bigger, the better. Take up all the city's ad spaces. Oh, and make sure to organize a light show with 2,000 drones tonight. Just make it as grand as possible. You get the idea." Chapter 13. On the street, people were discussing. "Oh my God, what's that? George and Willow, a match made in heaven. How romantic." That evening, a 2,000 drone light show appeared in the sky. Soon after, all the city billboards displayed the details of my engagement party. Women on the street side. "Such romance. This is what it's like when a CEO falls in love with me." Everyone was envious of this love story, but only Willow and Makoto wore expressions of misery. When they were together in the wedding suite, they looked out the window and saw the hot air balloons floating in the sky. On them were Willow and my pictures, with the words, "A match made in heaven," glaring brightly. Those 4 words were like daggers to Makoto's heart. He immediately deflated. Lying on the bed without saying a word, Willow hurried to comfort him. "Makoto, this isn't what I wanted. He's the one trying to ruin our relationship." Makoto looked at Willow with doubt, asking, "Are you really not going to marry him?" Willow didn't know how to answer. After all, if she didn't marry me, she wouldn't get the money, but in front of Makoto, she couldn't bring herself to say she was marrying me. They both lay in bed, and Willow couldn't hold back her tears. She got dressed and stepped outside, secretly calling me. "You promised to respect me and have a destination wedding, right?" I laughed and said, "Of course, a destination wedding is fine." I agreed to it, "and I'll keep my word," Willow shouted. "Then what's going on outside?" I continued to smile. "What's the problem? We haven't had the wedding yet, so I threw an engagement party. We've received so many gifts from people over the years. Don't you think we should collect them?" Willow paused for a moment and then realized if she was going to steal my wealth later, those gifts would be hers too. She thought for a second and asked, "How much do you think the gifts will be?" I hesitated deliberately before answering. "Probably a few $100 million. After all, we've spent more than that over the years." Willow's breath hitched. At that moment, she no longer cared about the citywide ads. When she stepped out of the suite, she was immediately recognized. Many people began taking photos, and someone said, "Look, that's the woman at the center of the citywide buzz." At first, Willow didn't see anything wrong with it. She even posed for a couple of shots. But soon, some online discussion started. Netizens were talking. "This woman's not virtuous. Getting married, but still going to someone else's hotel room." Someone had posted a security camera recording of Willow and Makoto entering the corridor of the wedding suite. As for how that footage was released, I had no idea, but I had to admire the netizens. They really did a great job. Of course, I had all the footage from inside the room. Before Willow arrived at my place, she saw the online discussions. She panicked, unsure of how I would react. When she finally saw me, I was leisurely brewing coffee. I greeted her. "You're back?" Willow quietly asked. "Did you hear anything?" I nodded. "I heard about it, but you can't trust everything online." I couldn't care less about it. Willow looked at me with doubt. I smiled. "We're not married yet. You're still free. You just need to promise me one thing: when we get married, you won't be running around with other people." Willow agreed immediately. "I promise." I ground the coffee and sat on the couch watching a movie. To my surprise, Willow suddenly threw herself into my arms. In an attempt to calm me, she even asked, "Should I stay over tonight?" I immediately declined. "I'm more traditional. Let's talk about it after we're married." No way. If anything happened, how could I turn the tables? Chapter 14. Before the engagement party had even started, Makoto found me standing outside the hotel. He said, "George, I order you to take down all the billboards and stop this farce. Willow will never marry you, so give up." He glared at me with fire in his eyes. I ignored Makoto completely and walked straight into the hotel. Makoto blocked my way again, saying, "Did you not hear me? After all these years, Willow has never given you anything. She said that once she gets the family fortune, she'll buy me a private jet." I frowned and asked, "You actually believe that?" Makoto nodded confidently. "Of course, our true love can't be shaken. She even said that she'll give me a fleet of aircraft carriers in the future. And once Mars colonization opens up, she'll buy Mars and give it to me." I looked at him like he was a complete idiot. He actually believes this. What the hell am I fighting against? I should have just used a plunger to knock him out right from the start. Why did I waste so much effort on him? Makoto still wanted to talk, but I laughed and said, "Did you beat up Ultraman too? She's gonna escort you with planes and aircraft carriers and send you to Mars to escape." Makoto was left speechless, and finally, he squeezed out, "Willow will never marry you." I continued walking into the hotel. Makoto, like a shadow, followed me. At this moment, I was truly speechless. How brain-dead was the original person to have their life ruined by such an idiot? And Willow, she wasn't any smarter, and shouldn't have ended up in this mess. The banquet hall was bustling with noise. When I entered, many political and business bigwigs stood up to welcome me. Willow, dressed in a cheongsam, walked out from the far side of the hall, but when she saw Makoto, there was an obvious look of panic on her face. I patted Makoto on the shoulder and whispered, "Your girlfriend is really something." Makoto froze for a second, then immediately walked over and slapped Willow hard across the face. Again and again, Willow stumbled backward, trying to crawl under the banquet table, but he bent down and kept slapping her. At last, people around couldn't take it anymore and threw pots, pans, and utensils at him. A woman nearby, who looked like an ant, swung a giant pork knuckle straight at Makoto's face. Makoto was stunned. He had never been hit with a pork knuckle before in his life. The scene became incredibly awkward. I cleared my throat and said, "Don't worry, everyone. I'll have them escorted out soon. I just wanted to show you all something interesting." With a glance, the screen in the banquet hall switched to the footage from the wedding suite cameras. Willow and Makoto walked into the suite, taking off their clothes, shamelessly making out. Willow even said, "Makoto, this is George's wedding suite. Here, you'll definitely enjoy yourself. I don't love him. I'm just after his money. Once I get his money, I'll give it all to you. I'll buy you a private jet, a fleet of aircraft carriers, and even buy Mars and give it to you. The whole room tried to hold back their laughter. What utter nonsense. Only someone as stupid as Makoto would believe it. Unexpectedly, Makoto stood there, proudly puffing out his chest, and said to me, "Did you hear that? I told you." Willow said all of that to me, word for word. I stared at these two idiots in disbelief. The next moment, security guards kicked them out. I turned to the guests and said, "Everyone, I hope we can blacklist this pair of adulterers. They should be locked up and never harm anyone again." The guests, all influential figures, were more than happy to help me out. Soon, Willow and Makoto became the most despised people in the city. They were completely stuck together. The two of them had no choice but to huddle together in a rented apartment. In the end, Willow and Makoto were written off completely in my script. I sent people to look for them, but they had vanished without a trace. I knew the script was complete. I called the system and said, "All right, main task completed. They're together now. You can leave. I'm going to peacefully enjoy life as a rich second-generation heir." The system scolded me. "You're breaking the rules." I laughed. "I don't follow the rules anymore. What's wrong with that? Can't the second male lead have a happy ending? Can't the second male lead rise up?" I paused and continued. "Can't the second male lead have a harem? I suggest you stay out of it. If I get caught, you'll be just as guilty, and we'll both be finished." The system fell silent and logged off. I stepped into my business car and looked at Laura Lisa and Alicia inside. I grinned with delight.